Hello and welcome. My name is Nilaus and this is C-Block tutorial. Well, whether this is the second or the third installment depends on your preference. This is the second. First we did the very first introduction, a short YouTube series. Then I went on Twitch stream for 4 hours and this is now the result. So this is the second more structured walkthrough, and at this point, if you are not familiar with C-Block, this looks very complicated, but in this video I'll be explaining what I did, how I did it, what to look out for, and sort of the plan for moving ahead. Okay, so where do we start? We start off by where we left off last time. I sort of had like the initial thing here. We had some melters, but I did not have any. I produced the very first iron. So you can see here a lot of iron has passed. Actually about 4 hours of me playing and 8 hours of real time, because I'm usually on stream I'm playing this at 2 times speed because hey, why not? Otherwise it's just too much sitting here and waiting. You can see how slow it is. So the very first thing you want to focus on is scaling up. Once you just have the first iron, you start making it operate by itself. That means putting in the inserters here and there, making sure that everything just runs, because so you don't have to flip things. For example, this one up here, that is where I take my, well, let's start from this process. You start with having some coal. Basically at the start of the game you're having a bit of this, what is it called? It's called wooden pellets. So you start with a number of wooden pellets and you have quite enough power from the solar. So what you need to do is build up to the capacity of the solar so that you have a base that runs by itself. And that's when you really start hitting the wall. That's going to be really, really tough once you hit the capacity of the solar. And that's a lot of things that has to happen. So the first thing you do is actually just make sure you have some coke, the coke to make water. One of the suggestions I got was actually do not use this one, the electrolyzer, the iron and hydrogen and oxygen, and combine it back into purified water. Even though you have the products, what happens then is that it is very prone. It's very prone to jamming, because there's produced too much hydrogen compared to oxygen, and then you have to fiddle with it. It's much easier to produce the water. You need the purified water from the purification of the sulfuric water. That's not enough, but also having a second one here. This one is taking salt, normal, and it's not actually salt, seawater in. That one has been jammed over, so now it's a water well pump instead of a offshore pump. And it actually looks funny with the shade there, the shadow. Now it goes in here, it will produce two things. It'll produce saline water and purified water. It's important that this one is behind this one, otherwise you can get in a jamming situation. So this one is also producing something else that is actually useful. At this point I don't need it anymore because I have quite a bit. But it basically produces brown algae. Brown algae goes into a process that is necessary in order to produce the very first inserters. Because the thing is, normally when creating inserters, you need the basic circuit boards that comes from wooden boards. Wooden boards come from wood, but it is impossible to make wood. You cannot make wood because wood comes from raw wood. And where is it here? It comes from raw wood. That's the only way to make wood. What you can do is make wooden boards from this process here. Cellulose and alginic acid. So you have to get this in and make alginic acid. It takes a hell of a long time, 10 seconds to build, but just keep it going. Just make it. And then you make the wooden boards, and then you can make this tiny little thing here and put whatever little teeny tiny amounts of copper you have. I'll take some copper just to prove a point here. There. This is not scaled for anything. It just basically makes sure that I'm now producing. And in this case, this one is something you work on later on. Now we have iron and copper and wooden boards in order to make the first inserters. That's what we need the inserters for. And then basically making the belts here, these wiggly belts, really spaghetti like, they're important to make. The electrolyzers are the only way we can get slag still at the early game. So you can take the slag and funnel it over here. It's not actually fast enough, and this is one of those things where definitely want to speed this up. This is where I use some of my very few electronic circuit boards, but I want this one to run as much as possible. In this case, now, what you're building now, at this point, you're building this up, you're building these things, you're building a bit of science because of course you need some production. So the very first science you built, just a bit of red science, you handcrafted. It's actually quite convenient in this Modpack. Wow, there's a lot of crap here. Why do I not see automation? That's actually peculiar, isn't it? Oh, whatever. It's not there. Logistics. That's really strange. Why automation? Anyway, I don't want to bother with that. So continue making landfill, build up a bigger base so that you have a bit of room. And then at that point you get to the really hard part. And at this point your base is working, but it's not really doing much except producing a tiny bit of iron and copper, maybe just flip it back and forth. And then comes the wall. The wall is when the solar panels are not enough. You have to anticipate this. And the way you anticipate it, then you have to build it. This is really important. The only way is to take some of the slag, a big portion of the slag, get it in here, and then build this design. You can build it any other way you like, but this one is actually working quite well. This is again somewhere where I think I like to have it a bit faster. There. I just want this to be as fast as possible. Go. Ah, okay, so they're actually working. So here you need the wooden pellets in to make carbon dioxide. It's important, do not use the coal to carbon dioxide, but use the wooden pellets to carbon dioxide. And a lot of the slag will be converted into crushed stone. That's then fed into here to make it into mineralized water. Mineralized water and carbon dioxide is what algae lives off. This algae working here, and that's producing a lot of cellulose. You can just build this unit and then scale it up from there. But you'll also see that these guys are using 125 kilowatts of energy plus another 120. It really adds up. That's a megawatt of energy right here. And that goes in. Basically, as far as I can calculate, it looks as if, and this is the kind of the sad part, here, half of what you get out, you have to funnel back in just to fuel this one, the carbon dioxide. That's quite ridiculous. So every time you produce two, that's why I'm doing it this way. You can see it's slightly more, but very, very, not much more. Anyway, I might even be able to do this, but that might also just jam. These ones here, they're producing. That's awesome. Goes in here, and then again here you have to split it in two. Because at the beginning you're starting with a lot of wood pellets, but you'll gradually use them up. And before they run out, you have to establish a new source like this and going into a process such as this. This is making wooden bricks, wood bricks. That's a complicated one. And that goes in making coal. Sometimes you might be able to make do with just one. But that goes in, makes some coke. Goes in here. It's technically not needed. You could just route it around here. And then I've added this one a bit later. But in the beginning, just throw it there. But you have to remember, this filtration unit requires coal filters. So a constant supply of coal has to be fitted into this. And there we go. At the beginning, I was feeding the wooden pellets. They have 12 megajoules of energy. I was feeding that to feed my burners, but that was actually really, really too expensive. What I did instead was just, after recommendations, I'd made it into coke, because let's have a look at it. Let's look at it. So we have wood pellets, comes from, it is 12 megajoules. The wood pellets I can make it into wood bricks. They have no fuel value. The wood bricks I can make into coal. That goes to 8 wood pellets becomes 4 wood bricks. So that's 2 to 1. 2 wood pellets, 1 wood brick. 2 wood pellets becomes 1 wood brick, becomes 3 coal. So 2 wood pellets becomes 3 coal. 3 times 8 is the same as 2 times 12. So there's no gain to go to coal. So don't do that. However, coal is an intermediate product and it helps you get onto coke. And then you have the crushed coke, crushed coal. So 1 coal becomes 2 crush. You still have now 8 megajoules coming in, and each crushed coke becomes 1 coke, and 1 coke is 5 megajoules. So you add actually 25% fuel from this process. That is great. Then on top of that, I have actually looked at this one. It doesn't seem like a good process, but it actually is. That is the scaling up to carbon. Now let's look at the carbon again. The carbon is 3 carbon from 2 coke and 35 carbon dioxide. So let's have a look at it. 35 carbon dioxide comes from this process here, and that is half a wood pellet. 1 wood pellet is 12 megajoules, so that's 6 megajoules going in. You're getting 6 megajoules for the carbon dioxide, plus 2 times 5. That's 16 megajoules going in, and out comes carbon with a 3 carbon with a fuel value of 6 megajoules. So that's 16 in, 18 out. That doesn't seem like much. It's like 10%, well, a bit more than 10%. But you know, at this point, anything goes. It keeps it going, and it was actually only when I switched to carbon that I was able to reach some kind of stability. And that's when you reach stability. I scaled this up a bit. The core part of me, what I have to do is at this point I'm only getting this one. Oh, that's not a lot. At this point, I'm only be able to do red signs. So what I need is actually scaling this up, and I've built a little one here for green science. This is my red and green science. The red science is different from normally because it uses electromagnetic coils and electromagnet core. That's fine. That becomes a sacrificial electromagnet. Funnily, that's red, but whatever. They go in here. These ones are also used for that thing, Atmos reaction nodes. And this process here is using a hell of a lot of iron and a lot of processes. But at the end of the day, you need 6 iron and 2 copper for each green circuit, green, what's it called? Yeah, green science pack. What is really convenient here is that it does not require inserters. That means because it does not require inserters, it's only iron and copper. You do not have to mess with this process. So once you start doing research, I recommend working towards the basic electronic boards. That's really annoying to get, and you need a lot of things. And basically what I did was basically just switching these ones over to a different process and then doing that for a while. But now I'm back to producing 2 iron and 1 coke, 1 copper, and 1 slag. Oh, I hate the sound of it. So I'm producing some landfill that I can go out and use. Let's activate our power because I want to show the research that is most important to work towards. It may seem really tempting just to work directly towards solar energy. Solar energy is absolutely amazing, but it's not your key target. Your key target is steel furnaces. They basically, steel furnaces consume exactly the same amount of power, but they are working twice as fast. So they're actually twice as effective as your stone furnaces. You don't use them that much, but it's something, right? And you want to save wherever you can. Sure, it requires some steel, but remember this is Angel's mod, so steel is pretty cheap. It's only 2 iron. The real kicker here, let's actually activate it. And the kicker here is this one, the boiler MK2. It is changing the efficiency from Mark 1 boilers, they are 50% effective, to 60% effective. That doesn't seem like much. You might be tempted just to see, all right, that's just 10% more effective, but it really isn't. It's 20% because you're working at 50% and then you get another 10. That's another 10 percentage point on top. That's 20% more effective, and that makes a hell of a difference. And that means you'll start getting some surplus. So we're going to work towards this one and have my very, very slow science base actually work towards it. But this is fine. It's absolutely fine to do this. One key point about this one, I like this one. It works pretty well. The part about it that does not work so well is actually the fact that these guys are not fast enough. There. Because they are actually stockpiling in here. And that sucks. Because that's not the intention. Cellulose. So there's still some manual shenanigans to do here. And that's just, you gotta keep busy. Keep busy and work on this part. What should be noticed is that the science is quite expensive. So 75 plus, oh, actually this is only 50. But if we look at solar power, do not consider going there. Do not jump into the trap of cold solar. Oh, I don't know why, but at some point it doesn't jump. Solar energy 2. How about looking at solar energy 1? That's solar energy 1. Great. 250. That's a lot. So that takes quite a while. And of course I also need optics. That's 10. That's actually, let's do that first. That's only 10 of these. Okay, so that really just explains it. So let's, I also recommend, if you need both iron and copper, then I recommend this formula. If you only need iron or only need copper, then skip the ore sorting facility, because actually this drains a bit of materials and makes it into landfill. If you don't strictly need landfill, don't do it, but otherwise it works really well. This one can also be changed. For example, if you need there, then it goes in here and then create some. That's actually something I want to do now. I wanted to create stone bricks. I can see I only have a few stone bricks, and I'm also creating here. I am creating some steel because the next thing. So that's where we are right now. What I need to do, I think I'm pretty safe when it comes to power. That's very nice. Things are just racking up here behind me. I have a bit of space. Really the next thing I want to do is, let's have a look at science. Washing here. That's actually a washing plant. The washing plant is the next thing I want to make. It's quite expensive. 30, yeah, no, not solar. It's too expensive. I need to go back to that one. That's the one I really need. We need to get a different way of getting materials. And washing plant is another way of making materials. It starts, you need several washing plants. That's why I'm accruing a lot of steel. That's going to be enough for 3. And also a lot of stone bricks, because that's also needed. This one's also using. But once we get these kind of things, they are actually producing a hell of a lot. It starts by going, let's see if I can remember. Viscous mud water is what we pull in from the seafloor pump. So you get 1 mud, whatever. And then some other water, some concentrated water, and some next type of water, and so on and so forth. And this is kind of the science part of it. This one I also need. I can then make nodules. Nodules are absolutely amazing. Usually they are horrible, but nodules are really good. Come from the heavy water, because nodules can be crushed and they can be used to make slag slurry. So once you have nodules, that will be your primary way. They are much more, oh, hold on. Look at this one. They are 1000 kilowatt, or 100 kilowatts versus 300 kilowatt. So the electrolyzer is extremely expensive compared to the washing plant. The washing plant is expensive in terms of materials, but not in terms of power. That really means, combined with Mark II boilers, it really lowers the usage of power in the base, while also creating a tremendous amount of actual power. Where is it? Here. Creating slag slurry. Once that's done, you can really start scaling up. So that's definitely the next part of it where I'm scaling up. It's not actually working towards solar. Solar is nice, but it's at this point I feel it's more of a trap to head towards it. Anyway, I think that's a pretty good summary. I'll be continue with another stream where I'll be basically learning different things, and then I'll come back here and do another YouTube session with summary, what I have learned, what I have built, and how to proceed from there. So with that, thank you for joining, and try to catch my next stream. If you are unable to catch the stream while I'm live, I will be uploading it to YouTube as usual, so you can watch there. It's probably containing a lot of frustration, but that's kind of also the fun of it. It's frustrating, but when you finally figure it out, you're so happy about it. Anyway, thank you for joining, and I'll see you next time. Bye.